If I were to take the story of Paul Bunyan and rewrite it and have him as a midget who planted carrots, who had a pet cat, could I still call it Paul Bunyan? Then why the hell do we do this in comic book movies?
All those moments will be lost in time.
What's up, Universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I am your host, as always, C-Dubs, and welcome to another Topic Tuesday, guys. And today's topic is essentially, why do we change the essence of what makes a character so great in comic book movies? Now, I understand in the beginning prologue here, my intro vid, if you will, I pushed it a little to the extreme. Obviously, you couldn't call that movie or story Paul Bunyan. But there are still enough changes in some of our comic book movies from the dawn of time, since we've been making them, where they just change so much to where the character is lost. And it really frustrates me as a fan. And I know it's the fastest way to be labeled as a fanboy or a hater or all of those extremes. And I'm not saying you can't tell a good story even after changing some of those things. For instance, I do recognize The Dark Knight as a well-oiled machine, if you will. It is a good movie in the terms of film and production. It is a great movie in terms of acting and quality of film. And it's even a good story, if you will. For me personally, it's one of my least favorite comic book movies just because I feel what I love most about all of these characters, and I'm not just talking Heath Ledger Joker here, guys. What I like and love so much about these characters, I feel are taken so far out of it. For me, I read comic books and I love that lore of superheroes to essentially escape my world, if you will. I want to invest myself into this epic universe, this epic story that's being told to me, and for that short period of time I get to turn off all the craziness of my world, if you will. I don't want to be reminded of the real life. So for instance, again, with The Dark Knight, just the too real of a take of the movie for me takes me out of it. It just does not allow me to enjoy it as much as everybody else. Some major character flaws to that movie, the way I see them, is it may not have started that way, and over time parallels change, and I get that. And even in movies that I do like, for instance, Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman, he does shoot people, use guns, and I didn't like it even in those movies. But I do essentially like that movie. But then we'll flip on to, for instance, the new Batman in Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, where I'm find myself chastising him a little more, and it's because we've moved on. So I understand, when we first started these movies, if things weren't on point, but by this time in 2018, and moving forward, we should be on point with who these characters are. We should know these characters inside and out, unless it's a brand new character that was made, I'd say, in the last 5 years. You need to be making these characters true to form. Again, Batman, to me, he's basically a detective ninja. Let's just call it what it is. He's a bad mofo. He's one of the smartest men on the planet. He's probably the most intimidating man on the planet. Okay? He's the most dangerous man on the planet, which has been stated by Superman himself. In the Justice League animated movie, he flat out said, he's the most dangerous man in the world. Regardless of you like all the prep time nonsense or not, it's true. Batman is presented as that figure who could take down anyone if given enough time, for better or for worse. And he's detective aspects of him, I feel, have never really been portrayed in films, if you will. And I know some people like to combat that with me, like, oh, in The Dark Knight, the forensics on the bullet. Listen, there's a difference between a forensic scientist and a detective. Okay, and I'm not just talking like gumshoe Sherlock Holmes detective, but it would be nice to see that part of Batman as well. Having a computer, do everything for you does not make you the world's greatest detective. That's just the end of where I draw the line, and I just wish that we could get a little more of the actual solving of a mystery, piecing the puzzles together, things to that nature. And then on to Heath Ledger's Joker. And again, I'm not here, this is not a bash fest on The Dark Knight or anything like that. I'm going to go on to other films as well. So if you're a fan of that movie, I just ask that you hear my 2 cents, if you will. And let's talk about it in the comments below, because I know how much people love this movie, and it's the fastest way to get into a nerd argument, if you will. And that's not my intent here for this topic Tuesday. Now on to Heath Ledger's Joker. Well acted. He did portray the chaos side of Joker. But 9 times out of 10, especially in a comic book, even if you're getting that chaos Joker, you're not necessarily losing the other aspects of Joker. Now, all this may just change when we deal with the whole 3 Jokers and everything like that, but ultimately, you still get the goofy haha sometimes out of a sadistic Joker. Maybe a couple issues in, but he's always still trying to leave you with a pun or show you something, if you will, trying to teach you something in his warped mind. And I got that part from him, but to me, Batman and Joker are yin and yang, and I think that's what makes them so great. And I think when it comes to that movie, people forget that. Batman is this dark, brooding character, and I feel that in that movie, Joker is this dark, brooding character, and to me, it just doesn't work at all. They're best when they're two sides of the same coin, if you will. You have your dark and brooding, and then your light and somewhat comedic, and not necessarily, and even when, pardon me, when Joker does get vicious, again, he still finds the irony in all that he does, to where he still could crack a smile at the end of it all, and it didn't come across that well to me, and again, that just could be me, and I just always feel that those two characters should be represented that way, and I think when you take those essence out, what makes the character cool, what has made the character famous all these years, you start to lose that. And moving on to the new upcoming Joker, like everyone has said, it's best to have multiple choice. And I know we have the Red Hood storyline as a pseudo origin to Joker, and I accept that. I enjoy that version. I do like that. Generally, if someone were to ask me how did a Joker become the Joker, that's probably what I would tell them. But just like changing little things sometimes can turn into big problems. For instance, and again, I haven't seen this movie. Clearly, it's not been finished yet. So my worries and concerns could change, when I do finally see the Joker origin movie. But, I've always enjoyed him being more of a stand-up comedian, a failed stand-up comedian, if you will, to find the irony in the jokes, not necessarily a clown. The clown is what came after. He was... I see him in this clown getup, and it seems as if they're going to make him a failed clown, if you will, or one of his side jobs is a clown, and he's just getting bombarded and fired and whatever. And to me, that just doesn't add up. It just makes it all twisted. The end game is a clown trying to put a smile on the world in the most deranged way possible from a broken man, and it just doesn't seem like we're going in that direction. So to me, I start feeling like they're losing the essence of what makes the Joker so great yet again. And again, I don't want to just harp on, the negatives. I want to talk about maybe even some of the positives here. There are some things that you have to change just to kind of keep it up to date. For instance, Tony Stark. He couldn't be dealing with, when we had Iron Man come out, he couldn't be dealing with the Korean War, or he couldn't be dealing, with Vietnam, if you will. They had to update it to Afghanistan and the Middle East, if you will, because it just, otherwise he'd be like 60, 70 years old, and it would just be like, okay. So I understand some of those changes, and that's allowed, but the cockiness, the brashness is still there. You see the hints, even though it's labeled by Disney movie, if you will. You see the hints of the alcoholism in him. He's a womanizer. What makes the character feel like himself is there. And, just to take another step back, just again with the Batman stuff, Batman, for instance, in Justice League, when he cracks the joke, oh, something's bleeding, that was just so in poor taste. He when Batman makes a joke, sometimes it's really funny, but in the most like, oh man, this dude just cracked a joke type of way, not just a funny haha, and then, even with, Dark Knight Returns, if you will, just him giving up, not wanting to be Batman. Bruce Wayne is the mask. We all know that to be true. Batman is the face. He is twisted and deranged in his own mind, broken from seeing his family murdered. And in that movie, they just don't get who Batman is. He's Batman first and foremost, not Bruce Wayne. No matter how much he tries, he's just not Bruce Wayne. That's why he always comes back, and he can't give it up. And it just bothered me to see him giving it up and him having to rely on the realism of the knee brace that gave him the ability to kick through a wall, essentially. That's almost like giving him a superpower, and I just didn't like it. It just, again, it takes me out, and I know I sound like I'm just bashing on the Nolan films, but that's just kind of what's fresh in my mind. Especially for our Topic Tuesdays, we go off the cuff. There's no script. We don't predetermine. We're just kind of letting our feelings out for you guys, and that's just how it is and how I feel about it. And even in some of the Marvel movies, they do lose some of, what I like about these characters. Hank Pym, just changing that, making him such a minor role when he's such a big player in the comics. And to me, he's just, it's a failed moment. It's a lost opportunity. He's such a great character, such a diverse character. I mean, the stories you could have told of him actually hitting his wife and the lessons learned from that are just missed opportunities. And I just don't understand why we chose to go in those directions, and the changing of Ultron being more of a Tony Stark and Bruce Banner mindset more so than Hank Pym. And again, I just didn't get it. I understand it made sense on why it worked in the movie, but I still would have appreciated it, bringing Hank Pym in. Maybe the piece of the puzzle they were missing, or they couldn't figure it out, they needed Hank Pym, and Hank Pym came in, and it was his fault that all this went down. And there's so many things they could have done, and it's so easy for me in hindsight to sit here and say these things. But they're just missed opportunities in my mind, and it sometimes irks me as a fan. Now, I also understand that Hollywood doesn't want to just retread the same stories. They want to tell their own stories, and I actually would appreciate that. If we got a comic book movie just with its own story and didn't adapt anything from the comics, that would be fine, as long as the characters were all the same. And that, I think, is what kind of works so well with the Avengers movies, if you will. You may not necessarily like the Avengers movies, but they essentially tell their own version of the story. They take bits and pieces, but the characters all kind of feel like the characters that we know and love from the comic books. And with the only other exception, I think, is Star-Lord. Star-Lord may have been one of the only characters, I think, that the changes in the cinema made him a better character in the comic books, because he mirrors more of that character nowadays than he did back then, before Guardians of the Galaxy was a household name, if you will. So again, I know this is all, subjective. It's all personal opinion. My views are not your views, and that's what makes this world so great, and what makes the comment section so great, that we can converse. Like, for me, I just want to see a Batman movie where he's a damn detective, ninja, rich playboy, and he's being Batman that we know and love. Let's say from the animated series, something more along those lines, or the Arkham. That's why, though Arkham City and the Arkham universe and the Batman animated, that's why those are considered the definition of the Batman mythos. Like, truly, no matter how great Dark Knight was, I don't feel that it stacks up to either one of those, and I think 90% of us would agree with that. Okay, and it's because they stick so close to the cuff of who those characters traditionally are. And, it just bothers me when, as here in 2018, we just can't seem to get it right. And, Aquaman, I think it looks good. I'm interested. I want to go see it. I love Jason Momoa. But I don't feel that, what makes Arthur, I don't feel he's portraying. That could change. But everything that I saw so far doesn't cut it. And that includes the aesthetics, we did not have to make him find the most badass dude in Hollywood, bring him in to be Aquaman for us to accept Aquaman. Aquaman is a badass dude, and anyone who knows Aquaman knows he's a badass dude. You just have to portray him like that on film. Like he's a badass. You treat him like a joke, then people are going to think he's a joke. You treat him like a badass, show that he's badass, We didn't need to go and find the most badass dude, because now what's, where we land and find ourselves is that In all honesty, Lobo. If we were to ever get a Lobo movie, Jason Momoa, that's when you need to go find the most badass dude in Hollywood, bring him in to play the main man. Now we lose out on that opportunity. And again, it's so easy for me to say these things in hindsight. Okay, and I understand that, universe, but it's true. It doesn't change the fact that, that would be perfect casting. That movie would make so much money. Everybody would go see the main man. And then with the whole Venom situation and just having Venom give in and become, spoiler alert, give in and become such nicey and goody and a hero with a snap of a finger all within 10 minutes of the movie just because Eddie Brock loved his girlfriend. Again, movie was entertaining enough. I'm glad I finally got to see Venom actually look like Venom, if you will, but really, this is how we make him a good guy, is because he loves his damn girlfriend, essentially. Oh! It's just so frustrating that we change these little things. That is what makes us love these characters so much. And everybody who knows me, my favorite character of all time, hands down, by far, leaps and bounds, Wolverine. Call me a 90s kid, I don't care. My favorite character is Wolverine. I resonate with Wolverine in a deeper manner. I see there's more to Wolverine than just rage and claws. Okay, don't get me wrong. The rage and claws are absolutely badass, and I love those too. But there's so much more. He's grizzled. He's seen the world. He's a tortured soul. He's loved many women. He's been a father figure to many people. He's been a bad father to many people. He has been the reason some of his loved ones have died. He's betrayed and been betrayed by best friends. He is cultured. He has seen the world. He's traveled. He's seen many wars. Okay? He speaks many languages. And I like, what they've done for the most part when it comes to Wolverine in film. Treating him with the rage and the bravado. That part is fine, but there's so much more. Hugh Jackman, I love him as an actor. I just never could fully, and call it blasphemous all you want, I never could fully see him as my Wolverine. I've yet to get my Wolverine on camera, and it's sad. Again, we're in 2018. I understand why the first X-Men movie was, they were trying to figure out some things and whatnot, but by the time, Logan came around, and I still didn't get it. I still never got my Wolverine. And if you're going to adapt stories, don't change the stories that much. The stories are perfect. Okay? Tell your own story if you want to change it that much. Okay? But keep the characters themselves is all I'm saying, universe. Guys, that's just my 2 cents on this topic Tuesday. And I hope you guys have some thoughts on this topic. Call me crazy. Let's talk about it down below. Let's, help me see what I'm missing in my favorite characters if you see them. Alright guys, until next time guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this video. If this is your first time finding us guys, click that notification bell. Become a subscriber. Find out whenever we drop a video. We do all kinds of things here. A lot of it sometimes random, but it's always nerd-centric. We're here to talk with you guys, and we want to converse and grow. And I want to make this a platform, and maybe even create a bigger platform to where we can all just be a community that just geeks out and nerds out and nerd rages sometimes together. Until next time, guys, I'm C-Dubs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.